Well, we're all smiles today at the Colgate-Palmolive Brand Days 2023, and I'm in conversation with the MD and CEO, Prabha Narasimhan. Many thanks for speaking to us today. It's quite a delight to speak to a CEO or an MD helming a FMCG brand at this point, because most of them we've spoken to earlier have been men. So it's very refreshing and delightful. Since you've joined Colgate, what have you changed for the ladies here?
So thank you very much for having me. It's really been a pleasure. And I must confess, my very first answer to your question is perhaps going to be not a lot. I think a lot of the focus that we've put is really on building the fundamentals of this great organization, which hopefully benefit all genders pretty much equally.
Right, equality is the way to go, of course. Uh, but let's talk about the various categories and how Colgate Palmolive has done in the last. You've just been here for almost a year right now. But if you compare Colpal to other counterparts, how has it fared as compared to the industry as well as other competitors?
So I think firstly, it's a privilege to work with such a large and highly penetrated brand. I don't know how many people know, but Colgate is actually the single largest penetration brand in the country. 9 out of 10 homes have a Colgate product in the home in a given year, which is, I think, a great legacy to have and actually a great responsibility as well. Colgate is also obviously the market leader in the oral care category. Roughly half of the oral care category sits with this company, which again I think is a great platform on which to build. And the third thing that really struck me about this company over the last year is the single-minded commitment to driving the oral health of the country. And maybe I can help with an example there. If you take a look at the flagship product of this country, which is of this company, which is Colgate Strong Teeth, it actually incorporates arginine technology, which is quite at the forefront of oral care tech. It's quite an advanced technology. It does drive remineralization of teeth and stronger teeth. And we've put it into the standard product of this company just as a commitment to oral health and rather than putting it only in the premium ranges. So I think this commitment kind of runs through everything that this organization does. And those have kind of been the standout features for me of this company. And personally speaking, as I've come in new from outside, like you said, what has also struck me is the inclusivity and how warm this organization is and how you can very quickly working here feel at home, which I'm very grateful for.
Right. Speaking of the penetration that Colgate has in terms of rural as well as urban market, what is it like at this point, and what's your target to take this company further?
So, penetration of the oral care category is near universal, both whether it's urban or rural. And penetration of Colgate is exceedingly high. In both cases, about 9 out of 10 homes, whether it's urban India or rural India, in a given year would have a Colgate product in their house. So, our opportunity for growth is not so much driving penetration because there isn't really headroom on penetration. Our opportunity to drive growth actually sits in driving consumption. So let me just take a second to elaborate. If you see rural India, only about half the consumers brush their teeth daily. So getting them to brush daily becomes a key parameter that we need to move. And if you move that to urban India, while everybody brushes daily, only 20% of consumers brush twice a day. And your dentist will tell you that brushing twice a day is critical for oral health. So moving that becomes really our big objective. So the first thing that we're looking to do as part of this improve the oral health of the country is really to drive oral care brushing habits.
Right. Better penetration is something that you're looking for going forward. But when we speak of volumes, what strategy are you going to put forward to sort of spike the volume growth going forward?
So actually, it's not so much about penetration because, like I said, penetration, everybody has a toothpaste at home. It's about consumption. So if you imagine that there are 1 in 2 rural homes that don't brush daily and we can get them to brush daily, then simple maths will tell you that rural volume will double. And that's really what we are going after, which is to get the habit of brushing on a regular basis. And that's where most of the effort or long-term effort of the company is invested in driving consumer behavior.
So when we talk about volume growth, can you give us a color on that? What could be the growth rate like that you're looking for Colpal going forward, and what is the sustainable growth rate that you're looking?
So what we're looking to do, like I said, is to move. So there are two ways in which we can grow volume. One is for us to build the habit, as we've discussed already, and the second is for Colgate brands to take share. There's 50% of share that sits outside of Colgate, and for Colgate brands to take share from competition and therefore grow volume. So we are looking to do both of these levers, and we are seeing green shoots on doing both of these in the recent past, and that's really what we're going to continue to double down on. I don't want to put on a number to volume growth, but that's really where our focus is going to be.
Right. So market share for Colpal, not just the oral care segment, but others also. Could you specify in terms of what kind of market share there is for Colgate as well as Palmolive, both the products in India?
We are obviously the leading player in the oral care market. We are roughly half of the toothpaste market in this country. As far as Palmolive is concerned, which is the second brand in our portfolio, and thank you for bringing it up, it is really small. It's a nascent brand, operates in the body wash and hand wash category, where we are either the number 2 or the number 3 player, depending on when you read the share, but where we see tremendous opportunity for growth, both from the fact that penetration of these categories tends to be single digit penetration. So we have an opportunity to add households in body wash and hand wash, and from the fact that we are a number 2 or number 3 player, and therefore the headroom opportunity to getting to number 1 still exists.
Right now, there are some sort of pressures, inflationary pressures at this point. Are you seeing this kind of sort of demand slowing down at this point, or do you envision that to continue going forward? Also, since we're talking about a slowdown, this morning, the stock has been down almost 3%, and sort of on a declining trend. Is there any reason behind that also as well?
So let me first start with the first part, the second part of your question. We tend not to comment on the daily ups and downs of the stock market. We tend to look at the longer term trend of what is happening to the stock, and if we look at that, then that trend looks absolutely quite healthy. Just remind me of the first part of your question again.
There are lots of inflationary pressures at this point that we're seeing, across the board. So has that impacted demand in any sort of regions?
So we were seeing quite a lot of inflation through 2022, particularly the back end of 2022. And if you saw the impact that it had on category volumes in oral care, they were certainly subdued. So category volumes were quite soft in the back end of 2022. What we're actually seeing is an easing of the inflationary pressure as input prices come down, both in our category as well as outside. And if we look at the totality of inflation, barring blips in one or two blips in food inflation, the rest of the inflation really is cooling down. And what we're seeing as a result of that is two things. One, we're seeing the category volumes come back as consumers are finding a little bit more money in their pockets. And two, what we're also seeing is that the pricing of categories is also beginning to slow down, or the rate of pricing increase is also beginning to slow down. What this does for us is two things. And three, sorry. The third one is that our input prices have also started softening, and therefore it's helping our margins. And what this allows really for us is to take that money that is coming in through input prices softening and invest it back behind brand growth and driving consumer behavior.
Could you give some color on margin in terms of how much has it increased?
So if you saw our latest results, gross margins is northwards of 68%, which is a triple digit increase over both the trailing quarter as well as last year. That is because of the input prices cooling, as well as some very judicious cost programs that this company is quite good at in terms of funding the growth. So that's the kind of range that we are in. Our expectation going forward on margin is really a moderate increase, so not an increase at the rate at which it's been increasing, a moderate increase as we continue to look to drive value through our entire P&L. And as we look to take judicious pricing where pricing is possible.
When we look at the portfolio that Colgate-Palmolive International has, it's slightly different, and in many ways it's different because India has various categories. There's like a Ved Shakti, which is sort of customized for the Indian market. Are you planning to onboard any sort of products that are there in the US which will be brought to India. And pet care segment is one of the recent additions that I've seen. There've been some acquisitions as well. Any plans to incorporate that in India?
So we're always on the lookout to diversify our portfolio in India. So our home is oral care. We have Palmolive as a second leg, but we're always looking for more diversification. And for that, we're certainly looking at what is our global portfolio and what could have relevance in this country. I'm not at liberty to talk about what exactly we might bring in, but it's certainly on our radar.
Any categories you could mention if that's...
At this moment, everything is work in progress. So
overall, let's sum it up. For Colpal, what would be your growth strategy for the next 5 years?
So our growth strategy really has 4 pillars. The first one is for us to grow category volume of toothpaste. Like I said, by growing category volume or by gaining share in our core brands. So that's the first pillar. Our second pillar is to drive premiumization, to increase the amount of value that consumers see in toothpaste and therefore are willing to pay for in toothpaste. Our third strategy is to win in toothbrush. We are also the market leaders in toothbrushes, and to expand to allied devices like for whitening your teeth as an example. And our fourth pillar of our strategy is really diversification, which at this moment is led by driving Palmolive growth at least twice as fast as the rest of the company.
Well, hoping that Colpal will continue to bring in that confident smile on the faces of most Indians. Many thanks for speaking to us.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.